Chapter 5. Stelle. Going to Palace Entertainment at noon was a luxury Royce Estelle was rarely afforded, and he basked in his luck as he took his time getting ready to leave his apartment. Sea salt spray and a spritz of glitter in his hair, a cropped sweater on top with baggy blue jeans on the bottom, and worn white sneakers on his feet all came together in a look he deemed casually cute. His other band members were already blowing up their group chat, complaining about costumes they didn't like or their favorite vending machine snacks running out, and Stelle couldn't help but smile. It was going to be another lively day of practice, and he wouldn't have it any other way. The ride there was quiet, with his manager informing him of the day's schedule and nothing more. He found himself sighing, envious of the way Lucien and Melanie interacted as idol and manager. They were always so friendly with each other, but then again, Lucien was like that with everyone. It was a comfort to know that at least Lucien liked him that way, but he wished he would get the hint already. 5 years of working at the same company was nothing compared to the many more Stelle had spent just remembering Lucien from childhood. They had met when they were both in elementary school. Stelle, being 2 years younger, had taken an immediate liking to the older boy and trailed him like an obedient puppy. They had shared a dream of wanting to become singers. With Stelle taking lessons weekly and Lucien being effortlessly talented, how could Stelle not idolize him? That, combined with Lucien's ever-present charm, and Stelle had found himself a childhood crush. Eventually, Lucien had moved away, and Stelle was left with only fond memories and the hope that they might meet again. He had never thought it would happen as they were vying for the same spot at an audition, and Stelle had known the moment he saw Lucien that the contract was going to him. Lucien had a way of charming anyone, and no one ever had a bad word to say. Everyone thought he was attractive, regardless of their gender, and his talent was undeniable. It came as no surprise that Stelle's long-forgotten feelings bubbled back up once they met again, and this time he wanted to make them known. Unfortunately, with the relentless training that took Stelle far longer than Lucien, he hadn't had much time to pursue his feelings. He had to work harder at singing and dancing, as well as getting to know the other idols in his group, all while Lucien Angel debuted less than a year after signing. Stelle couldn't be mad. Far from it. He was proud beyond words that Lucien was finally fulfilling his own dream, and Stelle swore he would follow suit, no matter how long it took. 5 years later, Stelle had his career on lock, and now all he needed was to get the guy. That task was proving to be harder than any training he had gone through. Lucien was either oblivious or just ignoring his very blatant flirting, and Stelle wasn't sure which was worse. He wouldn't give up, though, not when they had found each other again. Stelle knew it was fate. It had to be. His theory was further proven as he walked through the front doors of Palace Entertainment, and Lucien was there at the front desk. He stood in all his glory, bright red locks and a messy bun, his dewy skin glistening in the afternoon light, and the real treat was the way his pale fingers toyed with a loose strand of hair. Lucien didn't even have to try to be beautiful. He just was, and Stelle's heart fluttered at the sight. Stelle made his way over, casually putting his hands in his pants pockets and clearing his throat. When Lucien looked over at him, he had to hold back a blush. His blue eyes never failed to make him weak in the knees, and Stelle gave him a bright smile. "Fancy seeing you here," he said, laying it on thicker than usual. Lucien was as composed as ever, his own lips curving up into a soft and easygoing expression. "How are you today, Stelle?" He shrugged in response, trying for nonchalant. "So far so good, but my day has barely started." Lucien tucked his stray hair behind his ears, he replied. "I only just got here myself. Melanie is supposed to meet me here." Before Stelle could speak again, Lucien's phone chimed, and he looked at the screen for a moment before putting it back in his pocket. "Speak of the devil, she just texted me that she won't be here for a while yet." Stelle still had some time to kill before his band members arrived, so he took the opportunity to offer, "Want to wait in the break room, then?" Lucien considered a moment, his eyes drifting to the front doors, then back to Stelle. "Yeah, I could use another coffee." The two men walked together, making easy conversation, with Stelle peppering in compliments here and there that Lucien always took at face value. "Your hair looks great like that," Stelle said as they entered the room, and he chanced a small brush of his fingers over the pieces that hung down. Lucien just chucked them away and said, "Thanks. It's especially nice for dance practice, so it's out of the way." They sat down across from each other, and Stelle stretched his foot out, hoping to tap against Lucien's. It wasn't meant to be, though, as Lucien's legs crossed over each other, too far away to make contact feel natural. Stelle could see that this day was not going to be any easier than the rest, but he persisted. "I saw the new singles doing really well, and I can't say I'm surprised. You're always perfect." Lucien's hand pulled his phone back out as he checked for any messages from Melanie. "Your next album seems to be coming along from what I hear. How's it going on your end?" Stelle replied, but barely processed his own words. He had to be more obvious somehow, more forward. It was killing him at this point to keep his feelings bottled up, and more than anything, he just wanted an answer. But he didn't want to scare off Lucien by doing a full-blown confession, not now. So he did the next best thing he could think of. "Lucien," he began, putting as much charisma into his voice as he could muster. "When do you get off today? If you're free, we could go out for drinks." Lucien's face did not waver from his calm smile, not even as his phone alerted him to a text message, and he stood from his seat. "That's Melanie. She's waiting for me in the lobby. Talk later, okay?" Stelle muttered a half-hearted goodbye as he watched Lucien make his way to the door. As he did so, he caught something small, so subtle that if he hadn't been watching closely, he would have missed it. Lucien's head tilted upwards, just enough to glance at the corner of the room before he opened the door and took his leave. Stelle's eyes found that same corner, and he looked there for a long moment. There was a security camera situated on the wall, the same kind as those scattered around the entire building. Why had Lucien looked over at it? Was he nervous about getting caught up in some scandal with Stelle? Had Lucien done something wrong? Stelle's own phone began to vibrate with texts from his groupmates, and he knew he was probably late at that point. He rushed to get up and exit the room, but not before sparing another glance at the camera. It was exactly the same as all the others he had seen in his years at the company, always there to ensure safety. But for a moment, he had the strangest feeling that the one in the corner hadn't always been there when he and Lucien had signed for the company.